retail, manufacturing, trade, forest, finance. We talk about it all on the Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Good afternoon, Lagos. You're listening to the Broad Street Drive here on Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. Here we break down business and the economy beyond the headlines. October was one of the most remarkable months for Nigeria's markets. The NGX rallied 8%, making it the second best performing month of the year. But that optimism took a sudden hit after US President Donald Trump made global news. I'm sure we all know what he did, saying he could use American military power to crush terrorists in Nigeria. And in the days that followed, about 2 trillion naira was wiped off the Nigerian exchange. I mean, investor sentiment turned cautious, so cautious that the NGX All-Share Index and market capitalization both depreciated last week. I mean, they've been appreciating week after week, but last week they both depreciated about 2.89% each. But how did we go from being bullish in October to being nervous right now? What's really happening beneath the market numbers, and how much of this is political risk and not economic reality? So joining me to discuss this is Mr. David Adonri. He's a licensed stockbroker, financial market analyst, and the vice chairman of Highcap Securities. Mr. Adonri, glad to have you here on the show today. Hello, Mr. Adonri, can you hear me? He's supposed to be on the phone with me from the floor of the exchange. But I'm not sure what's happening. We'll try and reconnect with him and see if he can hear and we can have this discussion. I mean, no better person to have this discussion with than him. In October, we had one of the most remarkable months for the Nigerian economy and the NGX. October, the NGX grew by 8%. It was the second best performing month of the year after July. You know, after what happened in July, October, we had a good month on the NGX. But suddenly, in the first 3 days after Donald Trump made his threats to crush terrorists in Nigeria, bringing American military might into Nigeria, investors lost about 2 trillion naira on the NGX. So we're going to be reviewing not just what happened on the NGX, but also the Nigerian economy, because according to a report, the October monitor by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, October, we recorded considerable growth in the economy, not considerable, slight growth in the economy in October, but let's see how it's happening in November, and let's just try to discuss and find out how, the U.S. statement, the statement by the American president could affect markets and the Nigerian economy in general. So I have with me Mr. David Adonri. Adonri, can you hear me right now from the floor of the Nigerian exchange? Hello. Okay, having some problems. I'm going to try and reconnect and connect with him another way. I mean, so that's really the economy. That's what's been happening since November. We've been seeing some sort of downturn. And I mean, my stocks have also sort of depreciated a little bit. My portfolio has depreciated a little bit. So let's just figure out if this was indeed caused by Donald Trump's statements or if it's just market dynamics. And let's figure out what exactly could happen to the Nigerian economy with this statement, what will happen if the US does what it says it will do, and how you should care about your money, what you should be looking to invest in these times. I'll get across to him right away and we'll have this discussion, because that's a discussion that we need to have here on the Broad Street Drive here on Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. Hello, Mr. Donry. Glad to have you join the Broad Street Drive on Nigeria for 99.3 FM. How are you doing today? Hello, Lagos. I am sorry for that long break. I was just trying to connect with Mr. Adonri because I want him to, of course, share his experience here, talk to us about this. So, Mr. Adonri, we've been trying to connect with you, and we've actually just spent some time just trying to fix this whole thing. But glad to have you right now. I want to confirm that you can hear me from the floor of the NGX.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hilary. I can hear you properly now. We are good to go.
Okay, Mr. Donry. I was just talking about October. October was a slightly good month for the Nigerian economy, according to a report by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Their monitor for October said, the economy improved that month, October. And also in the NGX, the NGX appreciated by 8%, the second best performing month of the year for the markets. But going into November, we're witnessing something completely different. After U.S. President Donald Trump announced that designated Nigeria a country of particular concern and announced that he was going to bring American might to Nigeria to crush terrorism, we realized that the first 3 days after that, about 2 trillion naira was wiped off the exchange. And looking at the data last week, the all share index depreciated last week. So, can you tell us? First of all, I would have loved you to just help us initially with what happened in October, why the economy improved and the markets improved. But we spent a lot of time. So let's get straight to Trump's statement. Do you think his statement influenced what happened on the NGX, or is it just market dynamics?
Yes, to an extent, the statement by President Trump was interpreted negatively by investors. I suppose and hence the reaction of the market was negative. Interpreted negatively because if you look at the content of the statement, which is to end terrorism and banditry in Nigeria, which in combination have prevented the economy from attaining $1 trillion size. So if an external force is coming to help us solve that seemingly intractable problem, it ought to positively impact the market. But investors' behavior is part of behavioral science. It's difficult to understand. This time around, the reaction appears to be negative. But before then, the market has already started showing signs of stress, probably arising from the not too impressive results, the third quarter results that were released by the bank especially, and the inability of the bank to replicate the interim dividend payout that they did in 2024. And of course, some other important sectors of the market also fell below expectation when their third quarter results were released, especially the consumer food sector, which has actually been driving the rally in the market for quite some time. The results of Cadbury and Nigerian breweries were not really that stimulating. So one would say that the combination of factors coming together may have turned the direction of the market in November. But that October you mentioned, I think the macroeconomic reports were released, the macroeconomic indicators were positive, the inflation rate moderated, so that was a positive attribute from the macroeconomic perspective. But from the fundamentals of the market and also from external sources, what we call external shock, combined to depress the market. There is also a third factor that a lot of analysts are pointing to, which is the increase in capital gains tax on sales in the capital market from 10%, which was actually never implemented before now, to 30%, with implementation starting in January. So, and is probably one of the highest in the world. So a lot of investors may be proactively exiting the market so as not to suffer that encumbrance. Because if you look at the capital gains tax and the level to which it has been increased, it's like an arrow that is fired at institutional investors and foreign investors. And these are major participants in the market, so a lot of them may probably be exiting to perhaps move to other jurisdictions where the costs are not as severe as what happened in Nigeria from January. Hillary.
Yes. Although I think people need to understand the capital gains tax, I don't really think it's been increased to 30%. It's sort of progressive.
Hillary.
Yes.
Yeah, can you please repeat that?
No, I was saying that I don't think the capital gains tax has really been increased to 30%. It's a sort of progressive increase, such that if what you typically pay, your taxation rates, I think it's tied to the rate your tax, right? Your ordinarily personal income tax and capital income tax percent, right? But I think many people are actually misunderstanding it, because I'm personally studying the new tax laws myself, and I plan to have discussions about it the whole of December.
Okay, Hillary.
Yes.
As far as this capital gain tax is concerned, on sale in the capital market from January next year.
Yeah, January 1.
Yeah.
Okay, but
It was 10%. It was 10% in the past, but that 10% was suspended. It was not implemented.
Yes.
Therefore, several reasons to allow the market to develop because we are in a developing economy wherein investors needed to be encouraged to assist in the process of capital formation for the economy. But suddenly the thing has moved from that 10%, which was not implemented, to 30% if you make sales of 150 million naira and above.
And above, yeah.
So that is, and people who make such huge amount of sales and transactions are foreign investors and Indian investors. Retail investors usually transact lower than that, but the drivers of the market are these high net worth investors, foreign and domestic institutional, But if you sell and you leave the money in the market, you will not be subjected to that tax. But if you remove the money entirely without reinvesting it, you will be surcharged that tax. But if you not reinvest that money in any other security other than equity, then the tax will pay 25%. So that is the situation. And it's one of the major disincentives to investment in this market. And considering the fact that what the market ought to be doing now, if the objective is for us to form capital to develop the economy and meet the 1 trillion naira size of economy that is targeted, then levying taxation on investment ought not to exist at all. There ought to be a complete elimination of taxation. But it is not, the taxes on investment are already very many. You have capital gain, you have tax on dividends, 10%, you have stamp duty, and so on and so forth. So those are the kind of things. And investors are also operating in other jurisdictions. So it's not like a monopoly, so the movement of capital all over the world for investment is rapid. So any jurisdiction that gives them headache.
Yeah, the capital will flow to a place of
the capital will flow to other
of least resistance.
So
So let's come back. So let's come back to. So that means it's a combination of three factors, according to what you've just explained to us. But let's come back to one of them, Donald Trump's threats. What do you think would happen to the markets if he goes ahead and sends soldiers to Nigeria? How do you think the markets will react? How do you think the economy will react to this?
Generally, the reaction by the market now appears to be irrational. Because this is a market that has, and the economy that has faced a 10-year insurgency that has bastardized the agrarian economy and damaged the rural economy of the country almost beyond repair. And the government of Nigeria has not been able or failed woefully to solving this problem, thereby stifling the growth of the economy. We are just talking about its impact on the economy, not just of the impact on the loss of precious human lives, the dislocation it has caused to the economy. Now, a third party is coming to resolve that problem expeditiously. Ordinarily, if the market is acting rationally, this ought to propel interest in the market because should the threat of Trump overtly result in the elimination of pervasive insecurity in the country, it means that the economy will experience a big boom.
Yeah, ordinarily it should. Food security should improve. Ordinarily, farmers should be able to get to the markets, and inflation should ordinarily drop.
Exactly. All macroeconomic indicators will be on the positive side if that is done. So the initial reaction of the market is irrational. So we are hoping that by the time the market settles down, to critically examine the implications of an action by the international community to rescue Nigeria from imminent collapse and destruction.
Mr. Donry, do you suppose that this might be because people are not sure what the U.S. interest exactly is? There are various debates. Some people are saying that the U.S. isn't exactly coming to crush terrorism, that Donald Trump is just trying to boost his evangelical base in the U.S. Some other people are think that it's a matter of rare earth minerals and other things we have under the soil. Could this be because nobody is exactly sure what the U.S. wants to do?
Okay, well, there are a lot of people who have their opinions and a lot of conspiracy theories as to the motive of the U.S. coming in to rescue the situation, But if the Nigerian government itself lacks the capability and the capacity to solve this problem and has put the whole country in a state of desperation, which has been on for the past decade, and nobody knows whether the situation is actually going to deteriorate further moving into the next decade. And then there is another avenue where it's a risky avenue of a solution coming in. I would say that those people who have those such thoughts should say, okay, let them ask the Nigerian government to take the necessary action to solve this problem within a specified period of time, so as to avoid the incursion or the intervention of the international community. That would be the best thing for everybody in the country. If we don't give any room for international intervention to help us solve a problem we are incapable of solving. But if the Nigerian government rises to the occasion and is able to solve the problem, then there will be no need for external forces to come. If the Nigerian government solves the problem,
absolutely,
that therefore means that the positives that we are trying to take out of this situation, the glory will go to the Nigerian government.
So absolutely. So let me ask you, because we are running out of time, let me ask you this. What are smart investors doing right now? Holding, buying, or staying out?
No, as it is now, we are in a buyer's market. And the market is information driven. And a lot of investors, usually retail investors, they are usually frightened by negative information to exist.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
Quick catch up, the big issue, stock watch, tip of the week, the number, these and much more on the Broad Street Drive on 99.3.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.